What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mattybetts UFC preview show. That, of course, is Mattybetts. I am Austin Swaim. We appreciate you guys joining us here. And by the way, we've had to overcome some obstacles to get here on time. Well, last time we had all those technical difficulties. I want to show how much Matty cares about you guys in this show to get here on time because Matt, just like an hour ago, Matty ended up having a hit and run in the parking lot here at his recording studio in South Florida.
Yeah.
So, Matty, not exactly the smoothest way to get here, but you are here, you are on time, and I'm so excited to talk about some fights with you. So how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, bro. Someone just swiped my car, like the bumper fell off, and then the car dipped out. One of my buddies that works in the same building took a picture of his license plate. So the police are on the way. There might be a chance I have to go downstairs for 2 minutes during the show, but hopefully the cops don't come for like another hour so we can run through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 12 fights to go through, and by the way, thank you guys for joining us a little bit earlier than usual. Now, Maddie and I wanted to announce here in NFL season, we are going to move to a Wednesday show, which may not always be ideal in spots. We kind of have to wait for props on FanDuel a lot of times, but Maddie, you have something exciting, and I want you to give you a chance to plug it as to why we're moving away from Thursday. So, Maddie, what are you doing on Thursdays during NFL season that the people can check
Say
out?
that one more time, bro.
What are you doing during Thursdays in NFL season that the people can check out and come support you there?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we might stream a little during the Thursday night football. I got a big parlay in. I'm hoping I hit. But yeah, we just had some people coming through for a watch party, and then this weekend, Saturday, we're gonna have a crowd of people here for Gilbert's fight. It's gonna be electric. I'll probably stream on Kick, so kick.com/Mattybetts. And you probably see us live on Instagram a little bit as well. But come check us out on Kick. It's gonna be a hell of a stream. Hopefully, have a bunch of people coming through for Gilbert's fight. I'm pretty pumped for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We will get to Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady in the main event. I wanted to take bias away from one of our home of fight friends here. My model did just that. We'll get to its results later. But for now, let's dive in here to the first fight up on the card. And luckily, we should be able to go pretty quick through this one. It's a fight we talked about a little bit in our last show, but didn't really have a lot conclusive. Nothing's really changed much for me here when we haven't seen either of these guys in UFC. Zigomantis Ramashka taking on Nathan Fletcher. This one wiped 2 weeks ago due to injury. So now they'll rerun it. First fight up on the card here. Both these guys coming off the Ultimate Fighter 32 season. So neither have made the finals, injury circumstances, and now we have a 2 week injury removal. What could possibly go wrong? Maddie, you got any sort of different lean from the last time we talked about this fight?
I was actually watching tape on these guys when my car got hit, so I had to take a break, and I didn't even get to study enough on this fight. I watched a little bit on Ramaska. Like, I'm not that thoroughly impressed. He has some weird movement on the feet. Like, I know he's a kickboxer, but like he goes like this. It's just his style is super weird to me. I think Nathan Fletcher might be able to impose his grappling, and I'll tell you one thing. I kind of like. It feels like the first fight of every card now is like there's a submission prop live. I don't know what it is about it. But I think Nathan Fletcher, has got 6 submissions in his MMA career. He's 8-1. If he wins, that's how he wins, And I think, classic grappler versus kickboxer, maybe he can implement his grappling here and get a sub. But I haven't spent enough time on this fight, so I'm interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm in a tough spot here where I liked Romashka, took the plunge at plus 145 because of the unorthodox style you tried. I think he could have potentially scored from bottom with elbows or with submission attempts. Like, I generally like the cut of his jib. Here's the problem is, this line shortened to about plus 115. It's kind of stayed right there. Now with the injury react, my fictional now goes away. I don't really have a ton of interest at plus 115. I certainly haven't taken the plunge to this point. I feel like Fletcher's style is one that doesn't particularly score unless, like you said, he's grabbing a submission. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I'm not. I think these could be close rounds. It could be one of those damage control tilts,
that's true.
pull your hair out fights. So I don't know if I'm going to have a whole lot doing on the money line in this fight or not. But like my
Yeah,
general thoughts haven't changed. I kind of enjoy Ramashka more than Fletcher. The price isn't horrible. So if you see money line on my card, it's not like
yeah.
I totally changed my mind or got different info, but I kind of lean Ramashka here when um
Yeah,
I,
I think
I
it's
like
dog or
yeah
pass.
on the
And
money line.
Ramashka does have 4 wins by submission, and he's
Right.
never been subbed. I mean, obviously the competition is pretty questionable, but I mean, if he can defend the subs, I mean, he might be able to do more damage with the strike in and win a decision.
Yeah. So Fletcher by sub plus 180, Ramashka by KO plus
Oh, that's
280. So
terrible.
Uh, yeah, I honestly think if you like Fletcher by points plus 450, a little more enticing than
Much
Sub.
more, yeah. Feels
Um,
against a guy who's never been subbed and
yeah,
has submission wins. The decision to me feels way more realistic.
yeah.
I would say it's even. And why is it plus 450 versus plus 180?
Yeah, it's very interesting to me when I don't feel like Romashka is a poor jiu-jitsu player. I think his takedown defense can at times be an issue. So like I see Fletcher as more of like a wrestle control guy than a submission sort of guy. That's just from my very basic analysis on film. So I think that number is intriguing. I do think you do have the injury thing that's a little bit weird. I'm gonna check what this fight is to go the distance.
Yeah,
Minus 290 to not go the distance. And I talked about those were title fights, but we saw it again, the Ultimate Fighter finales. A lot of violence, two more does not go the distance with those. And then one favorite came through. That was Myron Santos, and then the other Ryan Loder, the underdog. But
yeah.
we don't want to talk too much about that Robert Valentin fight
I mean,
much more.
yeah,
But like, yeah, I tend to lean violence in this spot. Number isn't great for the under at minus 290. I might play like Romashka. I see. I don't even know which of the methods I would play. So maybe staying away would probably be the adult
yeah.
suggestion.
I mean, I get why the distance number is like that because these guys have gone the distance twice
Yeah.
total in their entire careers, and that's in what 9 fights for Fletcher and then 11. So in 20 fights, twice it's gone the distance
Mm-hmm.
collectively. So, but again, now that they're up in competition, I don't know. This is probably a stay away spot for me. I just don't
Yeah.
like this fight at all.
Romashka round 2 800, round 3 1100 is
Yeah,
kind of interesting. When I don't see him sparking Fletcher right away, but
yeah.
I got more
Question in the
sniffing.
chat. To answer a question in the chat, is this stream just on Twitter everywhere? So come over to YouTube, guys. YouTube. If you go to the Mattybetts YouTube channel, is where you can watch this. You also get notified when we go live if you subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you to both Brad and Mike and all the producers and people who work behind the scene on the show. How good do some of these new graphics look?
They
They've
look
been
great.
retooling with the week off for us. So why don't we move on, Maddie? We spend enough time on a fight that I don't even have any data on, so I'm probably useless and yapping here. We'll move on to one that I think is much more interesting. Dylan Budka taking on Andre Petroski at middleweight. This is kind of a must win for both. Budka wants to avoid going to 0-2 in UFC. Andre Petroski, he's had a lot of wins in UFC. He just got one against Josh Friend that wasn't overly impressive. I mean, you and I both had a sub prop in that fight that felt like it defied all odds to not cash. Like, we're still waiting for Petroski to really establish himself as this dominant grappling threat here. I think Matty just saw a number that he liked if I changed his
You
reaction.
caught that?
Yeah, I did catch that.
I was waiting to see what the number was on this.
Dude,
I
I
want to hear what you like first.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I want to hear what your model or you, either one, likes first. Because I'm blown away by this number.
So I was kind of in a position where I am leaning into the one strength we've seen so far from Dylan Budka, which is his takedown defense. I think it's been really good. He defended all 8 on the Contender Series. Obviously wasn't a thing with Cesar Armada. And I think that's very interesting when Petroski, he has shown some fatigue issues. He's shown some chin liabilities. He has shown
Yeah.
really poor hands. He was outstruck by Gerald Mearshart. I kind of was leaning Budka knockout in this fight. So I'm curious.
Really?
Yeah, I'm curious what you were thinking because I think
Oh,
Petroski's
wow.
energy and I think his chin is interesting. But if the number is bad, I'm not overly sure when Budka's been a guy that really has not shown very much in his 2
Yeah.
UFC affiliated starts.
What's the number? Budka by knockouts plus 650. That's not enough for me. I mean, Petroski's shown to be tough overall, and Budka only has 1 knockout.
Yeah.
I mean, when Petroski has lost by knockout, it was like he knocked himself out against Malkoon.
Yes.
And then Michel Pereira, he's kind of on a tear with finishes right now. So I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
The number I was looking at, because this fight reminds me of when Petroski fought Nick Maximov
Okay.
and was able to get that nasty choke on him. And this can turn into a grappling match where Petroski can just be the better submission guy. I mean, I didn't expect the minus 330 favorite by his favorite preferred method to be plus 360 on a sub. So I just think the number is very good. I thought it was going to be in the 200 range just because of how heavy of a favorite he was. I just think that, he has, 4 of his 8 finishes are by sub. It's against a grappler where I think they're gonna be in a ton of grappling exchanges, I think, in this matchup. And then the club and sub is live too. But I was just really impressed by, that choke he had. Again, it was a while back now. What date was that? That was the Nick Maximov fight, that Anaconda choke back in 2022.
I remember it well.
And Eric Anders, he got that same Anaconda choke against him in grappling, in Fury Pro Grappling. I just think that Nick Maximov fight's kind of the most similar matchup to this matchup that he's had, and I just think the sub there is super live at plus 360.
I do feel like that is undervalued, and maybe it's because he just went the distance with Frem, but we saw Frem go the distance with Anthony Hernandez. He's kind of a tough guy to sub, good jiu-jitsu. Like, we don't know a lot about Budka at this stage. I gotta say, the number's not horrible to back him here at plus 240, but for a guy that really hasn't had a whole lot of substantiated UFC success, he gassed out twice, once on the Contender Series, and then his last fight against Almeida, really, he gassed out. That's why Almeida was able to take over and knock him out in the second round. Man, yeah. It's like this could be a high-paced grappling fight where Petroski ends up being on the positive side of the gas tank too. Like, so what do you think 2-3 sub is here? If I'm playing like an exhaustion sub,
I would be scared to go 2-3. I would just.
You think he's subbing right away?
I think so, because I think if they're wrestling, like in the Maximov fight, he got it in round 1 early, and I think that this is a fight where he doesn't need to wear him down to get the sub. I think he just has to catch him in the right grappling sequence.
Sure.
I would just play the sub, but I mean 2-3 is obviously going to be. Let me see what those numbers are.
2-3. Well, I mean, dang. I mean, round 1's 9-1, 12-1,
12-1, and 18-1. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, man. As somebody who loves high IQ fighters, the guy named the Mindless Hulk doesn't really do it for me, especially when he mindlessly shot takedowns in his last fight to his own demise. It's not exactly a huge set. So there's another underdog I'm kind of leaning, but I'm a little shaky on. We'll talk about him later on the main card.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a spot where I was wrong, and my initial gut feeling on Budka, there's just not a lot to work with.
What do you think about Petroski's progression? So I actually just had GM3 on the podcast on show. If you guys check that out, Show Me the Money podcast on YouTube. That's a different channel than the Mattybetts channel. Gilbert and Moicano are my two co-hosts, but they weren't on this week, so it was literally just me and GM3. Yep. And GM3 just fought Petroski. And what
did he say?
GM3 is a guy you're not going to be able to submit, obviously, right? So that was a weird matchup. He outstruck Petroski and ended up losing a split decision in that fight. But GM3 likes Petroski in this matchup. We didn't really dive too deep into it. But like the Josh Frem fight, for example, I think that's just it's a fight where Josh obviously wants to keep it standing. In this fight, Dylan Budka couldn't really hold, he couldn't really hold down Cesar Almeida, who's a kickboxer. I just think if he shoots takedowns, I think the guillotine, the anaconda choke, I think all these things are live. So I'm just gonna end up. I'm pretty sure that'll make my official card is playing that sub prop.
It's a good ass number. I don't like points when Budka really hasn't shown the gas tank to be under attack for 15 minutes. Like plus 115, that's a shitty number. I don't like that number at all. Yeah. I prefer the sub by a lot. So, Maddie, I think you may have cooked to something. And that, by the way, that's why I love doing the shows. I don't come here set in stone about every single fight.
Same, bro.
I think you kind of made me see the light with Andre Petroski. So maybe I'll take an aggressive angle there. But let's move on. We'll move on to the next fight here. We got Gabriel Santos taking on Yi Zha coming off road to UFC. Santos is a guy that they threw to the wolves. He got Lerone Murphy in his UFC debut. He got David Onama in his second fight. Like, holy smokes, has this guy been off the deep end? And now Yi Zha is certainly a huge, huge step back in competition. So, Maddie, get Santos minus 265. Yi Zha's actually taking money here. So, curious what you think about these guys and if you have a side that you lean here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gabriel Santos, I think, is actually pretty good. Like, he's 0-2 in his last two, the only two fights in the UFC, but you look at the guys he's losing to. Lerone Murphy just put an absolute beating on on Barbosa. Mm-hmm. Right? I couldn't believe he didn't finish him. He beat the shit out of him. Mm-hmm. Right? So Lerone Murphy's very high level in my opinion. I think he has future champ type potential. And then David Onama, we've seen how good this dude David Onama is. Look what Onama's done in his last few fights. I still don't know how he lost to Nate the Train, but he looked really good against Jonathan Pierce in his last one. So I think there's these two losses to me don't mean a ton. I think they're okay losses here. I think this is obviously a winnable spot for him. I don't know a ton about his opponent though, so I'll defer to you. But I think that this will be his first UFC win for Santos.
If I'm the Yijia expert, we're pretty damn boned. I'm just gonna say that. But like,
Say it again.
if I'm the Yijia expert of the two of us, we're in trouble.
Oh yeah.
But here's what I do know about him: is he was the guy that he attempted a ton of takedowns against Zhang Yang Li, the Korean Tiger, when those guys fought last February. Road to UFC, he tried 21 takedowns in that fight. He got just
like
5 of them.
Marab.
Yeah, a little bit. And like Korean Tiger was a guy I was high on. He just had that weird like Rock'em Sock'em Robots like fight with Hyder Emil. But like that's a completely different style to Santos, who I think is a guy that can do it all. Dangerous submissions. We've seen 1.2 submission attempts per 15 out of him so far. And then you look at Santos' peripherals. The striking defense is a little concerning, especially when he's knocked out at 44%, but that's not really what we've seen from Yijia. He's more been a grappler. Santos through Murphy, through David Onama, decent 66% takedown defense, big step back in competition. I had a parlay with Santos, Ryan Spann, and Alessandro Costa before he came off this card. It's now turned into a straight bet on Gabriel Santos. So I like him to win here. I don't think minus 265 is a crazy price when I'm actually second.
Agree.
I'm second most confident in him to win on this fight than the largest favorite in UFC moneyline history, which we'll get to later. But I think he's number 2 as far as a win pick. I feel good about. I don't think Ja has the skills that needed to beat him.
And just to add to that, like Santos fought Elvis Brenner back in 2020, and was able to win a unanimous decision. I think if he can fight off Brenner and his type of aggression and submission attempts and all of that, like I think this is this could be a unanimous decision win for him. Maybe he can get him out of there. We'll see, but I like his money line as a parlay piece for sure.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I seriously thought he won that Lerone Murphy fight. So like, I think on principle, I cannot bet him. I cannot bet him to go 0-3 in the UFC, especially going through a guy who lost. It's just like
he would have to get caught in something silly here, and he's
agreed.
Never been submitted. He has 4 submission wins himself.
Yep.
Never been subbed in his MMA career through 12 fights.
Yeah.
I just think he's a good favorite.
And Yijia, we have seen in 6 UFC-affiliated fights, 0 knockdowns. Not a power guy. So I think you're right. I think it'd have to be a submission, and it's just not something I see happening.
And we got some love for the dog in the chat from Bet Sam. So I'll look at some more footage. I just think that based on what I've seen, I just think Santos is a good favorite. But I think me, I love me some underdogs by submission. So. Yeah. I'm not going to completely rule it out, but I think it would be tough for me to get there on that.
Santos inside the distance is plus 165. I know that Yijia hasn't been finished in those 6 UFC affiliated fights, but man, this is a huge step up in competition. Like I don't know if I like sub or KO better, but man, plus 165 ITD is a fair bargain to me. I like that a lot. Alrighty. So we'll move forward. I'm glad we're on alignment there. Don't know if we will be here. How about this matchup at flyweight? We'll see if it's flyweight. Andre Lima has barely or not made flyweight thus far in his appearances, so we'll see if he actually makes it on the scale. But a couple of Brazilian dark horses in this flyweight division. Andre Lima, we just saw him in his last fight, taking on Mitch Raposo, ended up getting the job at distance in that fight. Felipe dos Santos coming off a high-octane war that he got a split decision over Victor Altamirano in Mexico City. So, Maddie, this one seems to be a lot of fun on paper. Lima right now minus 186 favorite, which is an interesting price for several reasons. But what do you think in this matchup,
bro? If you look at Andre Lima's Tapology, the win says win from Biden. It's just so funny. I was expecting to say DQ, and it just says Biden. But he didn't look good in that fight. Let's be honest. Like, that was back in March. He then won a very close split decision in his next fight. I don't think he's warranted to be a minus 185 favorite in this spot. Like, to me, this is dog or pass.
Yeah.
I think it's a little pricey against, Dos Santos, who is kind of a dog, bro. 8-1. He fought the Manel Kopp fight, he went the distance with him. Then he comes out. He won a split decision in his last fight too. But I would maybe look at an over in this fight, or maybe like a decision prop here for the dog.
Yeah. The tough part about Dos Santos is when I try to look at him analytically, he had that first fight against Manel Kopp on days' notice, which is always going to tank the peripherals. But he didn't do horribly in that fight. I think it was more disappointing. The follow-up against Altamirano landed just 42% of his own significant strikes, defended 46%, so that's a below-average mark. And then he allowed 9 of 11 takedowns to hit. Now, Lima's not a guy that is going to change levels a lot on his own volition, so I see this as kind of a striking battle where to me, Lima is the more polished, capable guy. But the thing about Dos Santos, I think his volume is better. I think he's tougher.
Yeah.
I've really struggled with this line because I think it's pretty accurate. It might be a little expensive, leaning toward Lima, but I do feel like Lima in this spot is a worthy favorite in a 15-minute striking match or less. And we've seen Dos Santos pretty durable. I mean, Kopp's got big power, win all 15. Altamirano's a guy with a few UFC knockouts, win all 15. My lean before looking at numbers at all here would be Lima by points, and it's plus 120, which is
I
not
was gonna say
an amazing number. So
right, it's the most favorable outcome, or I guess the most probable outcome. I meant.
Yeah.
If you can, I don't think it's on FanDuel. I can't. I don't think it is, but the split decision prop's not on there, right?
No, it's some other
I
books.
feel like this is a split decision written all over it. I could just see it. So maybe you take a shot on the dog here. You get plus 310 on Felipe by decision. Or if you like what Austin likes here, Lima by points is the most likely outcome. I want to whip up a decision parlay again this week. I feel like I'm due on one of those. I've hit a couple submission
You've been very
ones,
close.
but I've been some really close decision lays that usually the early leg loses, and then I look back on it and I'm like, damn, the next 2 legs hit. And I don't know what it is. The Bilal Muhammad card.
Yep.
I had a 3-leg decision parlay to win 25 or 30K, and Bilal was the last leg by decision who it won, but the first leg of the night lost. It was that it was a light heavyweight or heavyweight by decision, and he got a knockout, and that killed the parlay. But then the next 2 decision legs hit.
Mm-hmm.
I forget
Mick Parkin, and then you got the next 2 legs
bro.
with
Nathaniel. That looked like such a good lay to me, and damn it, it's just crazy. So
Brzeski had been a durable guy to that point for the most part, and then he ended up getting chinned late in that first round. That was a disappointing one. What? Honestly, I think violence is an interesting take in this fight. It's plus 158 to not go the distance, and Lima's first couple of fights have been weird, man. He had the weight miss. He had the weird Raposo scorecard in his second fight. The biting incident. It feels like things are a little turbulent with Andre Lima always. So I don't know if I'm that confident he's going to make it to the scorecard.
I'm telling you, I can see him losing a split decision here. That's my prediction.
Something weird is going to happen here. So maybe we take weird props and angles if we can find them. But I like Lima in general. The only thing I don't like about him, I think he's a little bit of a gasser. So maybe if you like Dos Santos, maybe think about sprinkling 2-3 because the numbers are probably pretty big for an underdog. Yeah, Dos Santos 2, 14-1. Dos Santos 3, 18-1. I think Lima's got some gas tank issues, even though they're not horrible, but big weight cut for him.
Agreed.
So let's move on from this guy just because we don't have a whole lot definitive there. We'll see.
By the way, he's up to 2,500 now. I think
I've got 35, Matty. I've got minus.
Oh, so isn't that the biggest favorite in MMA?
It is, and that's how I was going to introduce this fight. This is the biggest favorite in UFC history. If we get there right now, minus 3,500, he's going to break Bo Nickal's record against Val Woodburn if we can get there. Brendan Marat, 1 fight sample. It was at lightweight. He got knocked out by Terrence McKinney pretty quickly. McKinney's a guy that can tend to do that, but now he's getting another chance at featherweight against a guy in Isaac Dulgarian, who I still reference his decision against Christian Rodriguez because I think it was a little bit of a turning point in MMA history, with striking versus grappling and scoring criteria. I think it was pretty notable, but now Dulgarian, a big favorite to get a rebound here. So, Matty, are you looking into the prop market here? Are you staying away from this guy altogether? What are you doing?
I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think Dulgarian round 1-2 KO here is probably where I'm leaning. This dude's coming off a split decision loss where he won the fight. Mm-hmm. So I think that he obviously doesn't want this shit to go to the scorecards. Mm-hmm. But it's I keep looking at these huge favorites, and I'm like, bro, just do your fucking job early. And that's what I did in the what was the recent fight? The Neil Magny versus the Brazilian.
Michael Morales.
Michael Morales, yeah. So
Not Brazil.
everybody, not Brazilian, sorry, Michael Morales. But I was on basically Michael Morales round 1, right? You saw that round 1 lay I had, that, by the way, a couple weeks ago that got screwed by
Valentin. Yeah.
But Robert Valentin, oh my God, bro. I still have not gotten over that. That was 70,000. But my point is you see these massive favorites, and it's like, how do you play them? And you have to look these fuckers in the eye and say, do your job and get this guy out of there early. And Isaac Dulgarian, I think, is going to come in and knock this dude out early. I think round 1, 2. I think obviously round 1 is preferable here. I want to pull up this number.
You're not going to believe
I'm not trusting him.
You're not going to believe the number. A round 1 Dulgarian minus 210.
And I like it, truthfully.
Minus 210? I mean,
I know there's... Okay, no.
So round 1...
Oh, so just the round prop. But if you take him by knockout, it's minus 140, bro.
It's... Oh, I saw plus 135. Oh, yeah, so round 1 KO is plus 135 for Dulgarian.
Okay, that makes sense. I like it. I know it's a shit number, but it's like the dude is good. He's going to come out and steamroll him.
Yeah. I will say I find round 1 submission at plus 280 more attractive of the two numbers, and the reason why is because Dulgarian's shown that tendency in UFC. He has, he has 2 career submission attempts. He had that first fight with Francis Marshall, so he's shown a tendency for submissions. It's plus 280 and like knockout.
Yeah.
I would agree it's more likely, but when his thing is getting guys to the ground, he's the Midwest Chopper, this dominant wrestling guy. Like, I almost feel like it's kind of a 50-50 proposition. And like, I know you feel like sometimes you take too many subs, but why do you lean knockout in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, it's more just the history, you know. I mean, Brennan's going to grapple right away, right? And, McKinney was able to flatline him with a knee and then ground and pound.
Yeah.
I think the question we have to ask ourselves is Brennan grapples right away offensively. Can Dulgarian sub him?
Yeah.
Based off of that, right? Like, let's look at Dulgarian's subs. So he has 2 submission wins. One was an arm triangle, right? And then one's a rear naked choke. You know, if he had like a vicious guillotine or like, I don't know, I just think that he's gonna keep he's just gonna find him coming in. I think that's more likely. And then obviously the club and sub could happen. But I just think he's either find him coming in or he's going to just pressure forward and look to get a striking off very quickly.
Yeah. I have a horrible feeling that this is a quick Dulgarian double leg. Gets his back and
really?
I really do. Well, okay, Dulgarian is a wrestler. He's 6.06
Yeah, but it's just the matchup more than anything.
Why is Marat going to grapple here? He's going to lose. Dulgarian's like one of the best wrestlers in all of UFC.
No chance anywhere else.
I mean, I actually don't know if Marat has. If you told me no takedowns in this fight at all, I don't even know what I would line it because we haven't seen Dulgarian at distance very much. Like he has always looked to wrestle.
I mean,
yeah,
you're right. No, that's a good point. I mean, and Brendan does have all of his wins are pretty much knockouts. He's one sub.
Yeah, like I honestly feel like if anything, Marat is a knockout or bust proposition in this fight. And I don't feel good about it when his regional competition sucks and Dulgarian just went 15 minutes with a guy that I deeply respect in C-Rod. So
yeah, and then C-Rod comes out and gets fucking guillotined or subbed.
Yeah,
to be fair, it's one of the best. It's one of the best guillotines in the UFC.
Yeah, I don't think that. I really don't think that Dulgarian is as good of a submission guy as Erosa. Erosa's got great length to a division. He's got obviously great front chokes. We saw him get Ricardo Ramos in that too. But Brendan Marat to me is not a UFC level fighter. They brought him in on a few days' notice to face McKinney. They don't really know what to do with it. Right. And I think this is an apology from UFC for what happened against Rodriguez, which to me was a horrible decision. But,
I can see that. That's why I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too heavily into his last fight. I'm just looking at this fight like this dude's coming out and like, gonna just TK or KO this dude quickly out of anger of his last fight.
I mean, maybe
they threw him a trash can and he's gonna take the trash out. And put him away.
And it's like it's a little bit of a degenerate type of thing when FanDuel's saying, "Hey, 68% of the time he's going to finish him in round one," and we just pick how's it going to happen? Is it going to be knockout or
Yeah.
submission? And I guess my thing is that I think it's close to 50-50, so I'm probably going to take the sub. Like if I have to talk you
Yeah.
into a sub, things have gone greatly wrong for our show. We're going off the rails because
Oh, for
I know
sure.
you
For
love your
sure.
sub props, but
Yeah.
I definitely a good fight for our show because you have to bet props here. Please do not parlay Isaac Dolgarian's money line. It is not worth it because we've
Oh
had a
God, I
lot of
hate when people
activity in
do that,
chat.
bro.
What if you kill your parlay on a disqualification here? You'd rather play small with props, things like that. Like don't parlay big numbers like
Yeah.
this. It's just not worth it in the long run. So, Maddie, why don't we move on here and take a look at the
Yeah.
next fight up on this card? There it is. I was
I
like,
love
when are
this
we going to
fight.
get to this? I am so excited to hear that you love this fight because I want to
This
know
is gonna be an
what you're at.
entertaining women's MMA fight right
Yeah.
here. I think it's a
Yeah.
great stylistic matchup.
Go ahead.
Jacqueline Amarim has I've lost a lot of money on her and I've won a lot of money on her. So it's been highs and lows with her. I'll never forget the fight I went to live when Amarim had Sam Hughes in that submission attempt in round one, and I
Brutal.
literally holding a ticket in my hand, like run into the counter, like I'm like, oh, it's over, and then she just couldn't sub her. Sam Hughes just hung in there, and then and then Amarim kind of faded. So I'll never forget that night.
Yeah, I was trying to find a picture real quick, the still shot of Amarim having Hughes in that sub and it being so tight. I just found it.
That
Uh,
was, I've had
yeah,
some bad beats by sub, but that's at the top.
brutal. Yeah,
It's in the
brutal.
top three for sure.
Well, Sam Hughes feels unsubbable in some spots, but like,
That's true.
so what are you thinking here? Because I have a very clear path that is. I am surprised at the number that I saw earlier on this fight. So what are you thinking between these two?
You're surprised. Say that again. You're surprised what?
I'm surprised by a number in this fight because I actually think it's good value.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Amarim's a 3-1 favorite. I'm hoping that you're on the same boat as me. You're the
I
other way.
I like an Amarine prop in this fight. I don't think the money line based on her outcomes because what we know
I
about
have
Jack.
zero interest in her money line. I think
Yeah, agree.
it's very expensive. You know, I think if you want to play her by sub, that's her path, obviously.
Right.
I haven't looked at the number yet. I'm doing it right now.
So that's how I like her in this fight, and I'm someone that's been very historically high on Demopoulos. I've actually cashed on her in the last
Plus 320.
three wins. Yeah, and but the thing about it is, I don't understand why it's like so prohibitive that Demopoulos isn't going to get subbed here when she's been fighting a lot of girls that are not going to submit her. Like that's not Emily Ducote. That's not Kanako Murata. That's not like
Yeah.
go back and look at all of her level of competition since basically Contender Series against Corey McKenna. She's not fighting girls that have submission danger. McKenna really
Yeah.
didn't
And
then.
you know what's interesting? I don't know how much you can take from this, but when you look at her MMA record, like
Yeah.
she hasn't lost by sub, but then you peel back the curtain a little bit and pretty much every grappling match she's had, she's been subbed. You know, she got subbed back in 2022 in a grappling match.
Yep.
Actually, is that a grappling match? Yeah, that is a grappling match.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got subbed back. She got an armbarred back in 2021. She lost to JJ Aldridge back in 2021 as well. But she is getting submitted. Hold on. No way. This is so crazy.
I just think Amarim's BJJ is nasty, bro.
Didn't
Like,
you just say this is so crazy?
what?
Hold on, let me make sure it's the same. The same Sam Hughes. Yeah, it's Sam Hughes. Vanessa submitted Sam Hughes. Are you hearing me?
Yeah. When?
Am I tripping right now?
I didn't know
she
they had
submitted
fought.
Sam Hughes back in 2020 with a triangle choke in round 4 in the LFA.
Oh, yeah, I see that now. Okay, I didn't know they had started. You know what's
How is
funny?
that possible, bro?
You know what's funny? I tweeted earlier this week. I'm like, how have Demopoulos and Sam Hughes not fought each other? Because like, but
How is this
they already
possible?
fought in
How
LFA.
did she do that?
I mean, she threw up a couple submission attempts on the Contender Series.
Yeah.
Demopoulos did a long time ago.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
if you believe in her grappling, then I think she's very live as a dog here and
Yeah.
by decision.
Yeah, I think there's two pretty clear paths. If you think Amarim is going to be able to do what she does, get to her jiu-jitsu and submit her plus 320, I like that. And then if you like Demopoulos, I think by points plus 460, I like that. And that's the way I would bet this fight, equal on both. And I'd have a hard time seeing one of those outcomes not come to fruition.
I need to go watch that fight. So it was a round 4 submission in the LFA.
Yeah,
I need to go see what the hell happened. Was it something
yeah.
fluke? Here, someone in the chat, if we could feature that comment. Sam was gassed and gave up. She could have rolled out, but she tapped. Okay, that makes you that's more understandable. I think if you're gonna play Amarim here, you maybe look at like a 1-2 sub.
Yes.
Like if you just think she's purely better in jiu-jitsu and she can
Yeah.
get the fight to the ground as well, then I think while they're drier, like can Amarim get an early sub in this fight like the way she almost did against Sam Hughes, and then her most recent fight. She's coming off a round 1 sub, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
so
round 1 armbar. And Vanessa's been armbarred in grappling. So I think Amarim has the ability to maybe get an early armbar here.
yeah, like I mean, so I don't think that I'm only betting Amarim 1-2 sub in this fight. I think that's the only way she can win UFC fights. I think her hands are bad, her wrestling sucks, and then we saw the cardio give it out against Hughes. It's like there's not a lot going on here except really excellent BJJ. She almost kind of reminds me of like a young Mackenzie Dern when we saw her coming up, where Mackenzie was pulling guard and getting arm bars on all these girls that had no idea what they were doing in that realm. If you have confidence in Demopoulos' ability to stay safe, I think she's a much better striker. I think her cardio is better. The problem is Demopoulos just a 30% takedown defense. We saw her play off her back that whole fight against Kaneko Murata. So, I mean, I think Demopoulos could give a ton of minutes away in this fight. So, like, I think I'm betting Amarim early sub. I'll think about Demopoulos hedging out by points. But, like,
Yeah,
I
plus
think
460 by decision
it's
for
a good number.
Vanessa's a very solid number.
Yeah. I don't think she's KOing her like flat. Like Demopoulos hasn't KO'd some of the other girls that she's faced with
Yeah.
fewer credentials and less of a chin. So I like Amarim
Mhm.
early sub here, but if you like Demopoulos points, I'm with you on that too.
Yeah, I'm going to spend some more time on this fight, but it's an interesting fight. I think there's definitely money to be made here on this one.
Maddie's going to be watching women's strawweight LFA fights after he gets off here. Not Thursday night football, women's strawweight LFA. So why don't we move forward and keep cooking so we can get Maddie to his TNF stream or just so we can watch the game and we're all excited. We don't hide it. We love American football here. It's regulated violence. That's kind of what Maddie and I do.
Yeah.
So want to get out of the way of the NFL when we can. Maddie, how about this fight here where me and Clint McLean are as split as it gets on this fight. Like we have a house divided in the home of fight picks range here because we really disagree on this fight. Rangu taking on Chris Padilla. Rangu coming off a road to UFC win. Second stint with UFC for him. And then how about Taco Padilla? Submits James Yantop in his UFC debut. He was a huge underdog in that fight. Ended up coming through and coming home. But now this may be a very different looking fight. So Rangju minus 280 here. Odds makers love him coming back to UFC for the second time. What say you?
Dog by submission, bro. I think I have to auto bet it here. Favorite is lost by sub 4 times. I mean, what's the fucking number is the real question.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what it
Six,
is.
6 to 1, bro.
Yeah.
That's like GM3 type odds. Like it's so funny because when I had GM3 on the pod, he's like, dude, how do they keep making my submissions but like 4 to 1, 5 to 1? He's like, that's the only way I win. I'm like, bro, I don't understand it. I couldn't believe it. He was, I think GM3's last fight, he was plus 400 by finish, which was I took.
He was.
And then his sub was like plus 500. The dude has 12 subs and 1 TKO, which is a body kick. And he's like, I don't understand how the odds are always like that. He's like, it's great for you gamblers, though. And I was like, 100%.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think dog by sub here. 6-1.
Yeah, man. Like, so I'm not one to talk you off Padilla in any sort of value proposition here because, like, we need to take a look at Rongju, and we actually got a comment that I can flash up there. This is not, you guys need to start watching Road to UFC. I know definitively, without a doubt, I don't need to watch Road to UFC because the level of competition coming off there is really, really poor. Like, we have seen it over and over again. Anshul Jubilee wins the fight ends up losing out in UFC. Who's the kid that got submitted? Jekka Seregi against Weston Wilson. He doesn't know how to grapple at all. Like, the level of competition there is so low that just because Wang Zhu came off that show and he's looked good through there, you don't want to forget who this guy was the first time we saw him in UFC. He was dominated by Kazula Vargas. He was submitted in the third round by Ignacio Bahamondes. The only fight he won was against one of the worst lightweights I've ever seen in UFC, Brandon Jenkins. Jenkins was TKO'd in the first round by Drakkar Klose, and then Rongju took nearly 3 rounds to get him out of there. Now we have Padilla coming in on the other side, who I think is a bit of a one-trick pony. He's a bit of a grappler. He likes top control. We saw him get a submission of Yontop, who's another one of those guys that isn't a very good grappler. And the thing Rongju did well on road to UFC is defend takedowns. His takedown defense, 85%. I don't know how much that means, though, as far as keeping Padilla off of him in this fight. When Chris, I know, is at least tough, I think he's got good ground and pound. We've at least seen the submissions in a positive way in UFC. I don't know how he's 2-1 here to win because Rongju, his sample was so bad the first time. I don't hate submission given Padilla as a ground artist as well, but I think I'm going to play Padilla and just sprinkle ITD here. In fact, it's just on principle, Rongju should not be minus 280 over anybody.
You said you're going to play Chris Moneyline?
I already did for 1 unit. I got plus 220.
What'd you get it? What'd you get? What number did you get it at?
Plus 220 on Sunday.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the chances that he can win minutes with his top control here, I don't see Rongju as like a one punch and go guy at the UFC level. Now, there's a good point that he was 20 years old the first time he was in UFC, but like he's 24 now. That's 6 years away from the analytical prime of a UFC fighter. Like he's just a young, inexperienced guy, and beating a lot of guys that aren't UFC caliber didn't change that opinion much for me.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm glad you like Padilla because Clint likes Rongju in this fight. He thinks he's going to run over Padilla, and I get Padilla is very limited. He's kind of a one-trick pony. Maybe he does end up losing here just because he can't get to his grappling, but like I don't have a very high prior.
What's the inside the distance number? I mean, do you think he's live on the scorecards? Because
Absolutely.
he hasn't historically done that well. When it goes the distance, he's 2-3. So.
I mean, that would be assuming that Rongju is able to survive any sort of bottom control.
Yeah.
Padilla by points is plus 600.
Padilla inside the distance is plus 360.
I kind of like knockout at 10-1 with that. He showed some regional stuff with ground and pound rather than a submission tendency. Yontop is not a good defensive grappler. We saw that. We didn't even get to see it against Borshev, but we saw it on his Contender Series fight as well. I think Rongju is a better defensive grappler than Yontop. I still don't think he should be minus 280 in this spot.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, agreed. I'll get off my soapbox about Rongju. We can move on to another fight. This is actually my biggest bet of the week, so we'll see how it goes here. Trevor Peek taking on Yanal Ashmus. Trevor Peek, kind of a fan favorite. He is kind of one of those guys that goes all or nothing, throwing hammers, standing hammer fists, you name it, against a guy in Yanal Ashmus who has a win that's aged pretty well as Sam Patterson continues to climb up the ranks at welterweight. Ashmus broke his arm in his last fight against Chris Duncan, so we didn't get like a great sample for him there. Interesting fight, and it's one of the closer lined money lines on the card. So, Matty, who do you like to win, and what are you thinking in this bout?
So Trevor Peek was GM3's pick of the card because we did a parlay.
Yeah.
And I took Gilbert and he took Trevor. And we felt good about it. We got two absolute dogs, right? In our parlay. One's an actual underdog and one's a small favorite. But I look at Trevor Peek and I don't hate the loss against Charlie Campbell. It was a decision loss. The Muhammad Yahya fight, he wins. He wins his unanimous decision. And the Chepe fight, that loss hasn't aged well either. Chepe looked really good against Damon Jackson.
Yep.
So I kind of feel like this is the UFC giving Trevor Peek a pretty winnable fight here. Are you surprised it's minus 130 and it hasn't really climbed? Or you think...
Not. It's actually gone the other way. So let's see. Oh, I guess it hasn't gone the other way. I got Ashmus at plus 110. So
you're on the other side, and what did you get it at?
Plus 110.
Okay.
That was on a different.
How do you like him to get it done?
I like Ashmus by points here just because Trevor Peek's chin is made of granite.
Yeah.
I don't, I haven't seen enough footage as far as Ashmus having any sort of submission tendency. to believe in it, but I like Ashmuz by points here. I think he's the cleaner striker. I think he's faster. Now, it is interesting that Peak in recent fights added a little bit of wrestling upside, but at the same time, you look at who Peak's wins have come over in this spot. Muhammad Yahya, awful. We just saw him get his leg chopped off by I
Yeah.
forget Coway Fernandez. Eric Gonzalez, another really subpar UFC level guy, and then he was losing to Malik Lewis in the first round of the Contender Series. Malik Lewis is awful, so. I think Ash moves on merit. He showed good power against Sam Patterson, even though I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to knock out Trevor Peak, because if we haven't seen it yet, I'm not sure what it's going to take. I mean, the guy's got a great chin, but I like Ash Moose, and I think I like him on the card, which should be a decent number since he's a slight underdog here. But he was my first play of the week. I put 3 units on him plus 110.
Really, 3 units.
I just think he's a better guy. I think Ashmuz is a little bit of a dark horse in this division, the way he was able to take out Patterson. The Duncan
Yeah.
fight, I thought he was winning it before Chris.
I do like the win against Patterson.
Yeah.
I do. I think that win is aged pretty solid, bro.
Yeah. And the big thing in that fight was he going to be able to stop Sam's grappling? And we never really got the answer to that because he knocked him out so quickly.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Patterson rattled off 2 round 1 subs right after that loss.
yes. Yeah. And that was at welterweight as well. So this is at 55.
Yeah.
I will say that Shepe fight for Peak was at 155, so he had an advantage over Shepe, who's a natural featherweight. He fights at 145, so that was probably some of the reason why Shepe. I don't know if you rematch those dudes at 155. Shepe to me feels like he's getting better and better every time we see him. So
Do you think he could sub Trevor Peak?
I don't know enough about him. I haven't seen it at the UFC level, that's for sure. That sort of tendency. I mean, he broke his arm.
That almost feels like if you're gonna get Trevor Peak out of there, I think you got to choke him out.
Agreed. But I felt higher about Charlie Campbell's ability.
That's 12-1, bro. That's plus 1200.
Yeah, I mean, Ashmuz is a striker, so I get it.
I know. That's just a big ass number, though.
Yeah, it's kind of boring. Like plus 290 is the decision.
He's got 2 subs. He's got 2 submissions.
Who were they?
It's been a while. Oh, he's
were they
got
over
a
grocery
guillotine.
clerks?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know when his second one was. His first one was in 2017. It was a guillotine.
I feel
don't
like
even
Trevor
see
Peak
his
is a
second.
guy that UFC fighters love. Fans love him, but I have significant concerns. 44% striking defense is awful.
Yeah.
54% takedown defense, really struggled with that against Shepe when those two fought. So I have more questions about Peak than answers still, in my opinion.
Agreed. All right, fair enough. I'm
All right.
undecided on this one, but
We'll see what
Might
I'm
play
interested to see what you
something
cook up from up. I feel like there's gold. In that
this
ballpark
so
somewhere.
this next fight,
Yeah.
I'm about to look at the number right now, but I'll tell you what, this might be like a fucking hammer play for me.
Yeah, you've been talking about a specific angle in this fight.
Can you guess what I'm about to play? It's a specific outcome prop.
I don't have to guess. You've been spamming our Home of Fight chat with it because you're so
I
ready
have?
to play. Yeah, I'm so ready. To
Oh,
play.
that's because I was looking at the odds, but he ballooned up to minus 350. It's not on FanDuel yet, but I can
Okay.
tell all 580 people that are watching this show right now, which, by the way, if you're on Twitter or Facebook, come over to YouTube. It's a better experience. Come watch it over on the YouTube, the Mattybetts YouTube channel. I can tell you right now, I am absolutely loaded on Cody Durden by knockout in this fight. Not by decision, not by submission, not money line. Cody Durden is going to knock Matt Schnell out in this fight, and it's going to happen probably pretty early.
Yeah, do you have a number like from ShadySportsbook.com? Have you seen any props on this fight yet? So
Say it
let me
again?
give a little backstory on this fight first.
All
Is
right.
that we had Matt Schnell and Alessandro Costa. That comes off, so Durden stepping in on just a few days' notice here. Last time we saw him was that knockout loss to Bruno Silva. I think last month. I want to say it was an Apex card, so it's decently short notice and a quick turnaround off a KO. Does that not scare you off at all?
Say that one more time, bro.
So does it scare you off at all that it's a quick turnaround for Durden? It's short notice, and then he's coming off the knockout loss last month?
Zero. I have zero concerns, and there's one reason. It's called Matt Schnell's chin, and it's called what I saw out of Cody Durden in his last fight. He looked. That's as good as you can look in a loss to me, right? Like he grappled at the wrong time. He shot that takedown. He could have TKO'd his opponent, and he looked absolutely phenomenal. I think he's going to march forward, and he's going to put Matt Schnell's lights out. I believe in Cody Durden in this spot. I think when you're a fighter and you lose the way that happened, you want to get back in there and prove yourself. So is there a world where he doesn't get him out of there, maybe gasses and gets choked out? I think it's possible, which is why you want to stay away from a minus 340 money line here. But I can just tell you that, again, it's going to depend what the number is, because I can't see it on FanDuel yet. But from what I saw in Cody Durden's last fight and how good his hands looked and how bad Matt Schnell's chin has looked, I think he's going to come forward and get the TKO on the feet.
Yeah, so I'm going to look at my props just to see what's going on. I modeled this fight just a few minutes before we came on air because I had already had Costa in here. But, like, I've got Durden at minus 135 to win. I'm showing the majority of his equity by decision. And kind of, when I think about these guys, like, closing my eyes, I think a lot of this comes down to Schnell maybe giving up a lot of takedowns, 50% takedown defense. And the thing that I think makes your point, he's really getting up there in both age and attrition for flyweight. It's definitely on the high end. He's above 80th percentile on really both when it comes to KO losses. Remember, he was badly hurt in that Sumadri fight that he ended up actually coming from behind.
That was the sickest comeback of all time, in my opinion. I don't know that I've ever seen a better comeback than that.
He was so badly hurt. So, like, that doesn't even count in my model as attrition because he got the win in that fight. But, like,
yeah.
You really think about that. I'm pretty concerned about the damage he's taken, but at the same time, we've seen Durden fall ass backwards into submissions, right? Where he got choked out quickly by Makayev.
Ulanbekov, I bet on Ulanbekov the sub, Cody.
Yeah.
So the people in the chat that are saying I'm biased towards Durden because he lives in Florida, I literally took Ulanbekov to submit Cody. But I think that Ulanbekov is just higher level, and Matt Schnell is up there in age. His chin, like, is just not what it used to be. I mean, he has how many KO losses in the last 5 years? I mean, 1, 2,
3.
And
one of them was Pantoja, who's not really a power puncher.
I mean, I just think this is a perfect get right spot for Cody to put him right back into the mix here.
Yeah.
The round 2 KO feels like a great play. I mean, he's constantly losing by round 2 KO, Matt Schnell. But Cody looked super explosive in round 1.
Yeah.
Like in his last fight. He looked very explosive.
Man, I wish this number wasn't so steep. Maybe it's steep for a reason because, like, I feel like we're sending Schnell out to pasture and his takedown defense isn't pretty good. But, like, when I look at my model's result here, I think the smart thing is dog or pass. But I don't know if I'll have any action in this fight, really. We don't have any props, so I can't tell. It's just
trying to find a KO prop. I'm just trying to find it on any site right now just to see. Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's a world where you could play Matt Schnell round 2-3 sub.
Yeah.
You know, as a sprinkle. Like, if Cody doesn't get it, if he doesn't go for this KO and if he does not able to get the KO in the first, 5 to 7, 8 minutes, I think Schnell can rally. We've seen him do that. But I don't know, bro. I mean, the guys Cody's losing to by sub are super high level at submissions, and that's not to say Matt Schnell isn't.
Agreed.
But I just think he's going to get hurt. I think if he gets the sub, he's going to have to rally, like he's going to have to pull like a GM3 type performance off, like from this past card. I mean, is there any chance this fight goes the distance in your eyes?
I could see that Schnell ends up surviving an ugly lopsided loss where Durden's all over him, kind of similar to how Cody was all over Charles Johnson, just because Schnell's a hard guy to sub. Maybe if Durden doesn't, I think what you're thinking about is, like, we've seen Cody with the distance knockout against, who was that? Jimmy Flick, right? Oh, no. Who was it that he dropped with his hands? JP Bays, the glass chin himself. Like, is that the angle you're taking more than ground and pound, or like, because
No, I think Durden on the stand-up game can hurt Schnell badly. Look at the guys he's fighting that are, like, super. I mean, Charles Johnson, as durable as it gets.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't able to put him away, but super durable. Jake Hadley, I believe, he's never been knocked out either, right? So he's fighting in 4 straight fights against guys that historically have either never been knocked out or have only been knocked out once. Bruno Silva had only been knocked out once in his career. The 3 fights prior to that, he's literally fighting guys that have never been knocked out. Yep. So I think we're getting a very good like value spot, depending on what the number ends up being, on Durden by knockout, because he's fighting 4 straight guys that historically have never been knocked out or
Yep.
ever been knocked out once. And now he's getting a guy, Matt Schnell, who doesn't have much of a chin left. I think
Yep.
it's a no-brainer.
I don't disagree with that analysis, which is why I'm a little iffy about betting Schnell in this spot. So I think are similar where I was making a big case for Ashmoose and you were a little undecided. I think that's me with this fight where I haven't. This was the other underdog, by the way, where I'm like, I don't know if I talk this through. Am I going to think about Budka or Schnell or maybe neither? I lean Schnell of the two of those guys, but like I still don't. I don't like it, Matt. Like because I totally could see him getting run through, and his chin is just
I'm
dust.
telling
Like
you
I
one
yeah,
thing, bro. I'm going to have a massive knockout parlay this weekend, and
yeah.
Cody Durden will be in it.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a pretty good number there. I really do. I,
I honestly think I'm smacking a knockout parlay this week, and I can just feel it. Can
I
you imagine if I have Gilbert in there as the last leg and I have to sweat that?
oh, okay. Okay. Let's not get a yeah.
Not to get too ahead here.
Yeah, I don't want to give away the farm here, but speaking of knockout props, Matty, why don't we move on to the next fight because I've been trying to sell you on one
Oh
all week.
God.
The most definitive prop that my model has ever returned here in this fight between Steve Garcia and Kyle Nelson. And I guess the question is because violence is expected from odds makers. I think if you look Steve Garcia up in the dictionary featherweight, it's been violence. Are you with me, or do you actually think that this might be a spot where Steve, the knockout artist in recent fights, might be a victim of the monster here? Kyle Nelson quietly resurgent here in this featherweight division.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we've been making so much coin off Steve Garcia, bro.
I have.
So his last fight, I was having a really rough start to that card, and I was at I think the Hard Rock in Tampa or Hollywood, I forget which one it was, but I ended up chasing so big on Steve. I was so on tilt, and I ended up hammering Steve by knockout, and he just came through for me, bro. He got me back. But the dude has got serious power. He's massive for this division. I will tell you, I have a very weird feeling about this fight because Steve Garcia can get a little over aggressive, and I think there's a world where he can get caught and put away in this matchup specifically.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Garcia getting the knockout win, but I'm telling you what, another thing to look at here is if Kyle Nelson weathers a storm and is able to win on the scorecards. That number's ridiculous right now, I'm pretty sure. It's so Kyle Nelson by knockout is plus 300. Kyle Nelson by decision is plus 800.
Yeah.
I think that's I know obviously Steve Garcia fights don't really go the distance. Well, he's had 6 fights have gone the distance out of 21. That's actually more than I would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
But he's won 13 fights by knockout. He's only lost once by knockout. So do you really get enough value on Kyle Nelson by knockout at 3-1 here? I don't know that. I don't know that it has enough value.
I think it's a bad number. I really do. Whereas if he did not knock out Algea, what are we looking at? 6-1, 7-1? Like I feel like it's a bad
timing. It's bad timing in a bad spot to take it.
Right, and then you remember the circumstances with the Algeo knockout, which is that it was kind of an iffy stoppage. In addition here, look, I'll be very frank. I've got Garcia at minus 205 to win here. I've got knockout minus 150, which is the highest prop I've ever returned, and it's because you look at Garcia's sample at featherweight. He's knocked out 4 dudes within 7 minutes. He has a 3.4 knockdown rate over 3.4% knockdown rate overall. That is the highest of anybody, minimum 6 fights anywhere in UFC. Like pound for pound, this is the meanest dude as far as knockout power. This is what peak male performance looks like. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Like he's been so accurate and so voluminous, and you saw him flip the switch in that fight against Choi, right, where he was trying to be measured early on. He was taking his time. It wasn't going very well for him. And I think Kyle Nelson is a guy that is slow. He's prone to being blitzed like that, and he's kind of been in these crawls that he can win. Blake Builder wasn't able to take him down. Fernando Padilla, weird performance out of him where if you rematched, I'm not sure that it ends up going any differently. And then the Algeo fight, it was close up until that kind of weird iffy stoppage. Like I don't think what's knockout in this fight on FanDuel. It's minus 115. I've seen a minus 110 floating around out there. I'm hammering it again. I am riding Steve again, and I'm going to ride it till it doesn't cash because so far my data tells me nobody can stand and trade with this dude, and I don't think Kyle Nelson's going to be the first.
I honestly I keep going back and forth on this fight, bro. I don't know what to do with it. Steve Garcia is kind of like a train for us to just keep throwing money at, Steve Garcia by knockout, like it just feels free every fight. I just have a weird feeling on this one, but we'll see if I get there by Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I get the trepidation when he was dropped by Nerdembeka in one of the fights. And then, by the way, Nolan, the parlay, is with me on this. I love Steve
Yeah.
Garcia round 2 KO here because this dude comes off the stool in round 2 as a monster. Like, he just put Melky Costa
Oh,
away. He
100%. I
put
like that.
Nerdembeka away. And
And you might be able to
Nolan,
get a way better number too, because the
yeah,
KO number is just not attractive. So
yeah. No, I like Nolan. Nolan likes fight to start round 2, and I can see that because Nelson is like a patented
I
cage
can see
pusher
that
here.
too. I
But
like. I
Garcia,
might play the Garcia round 2 KO. I actually like
yeah.
that.
And do we have a number? I'm looking at it. It is plus 550. I think it's a good number.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's a good
phenomenal
number.
number.
And like
Phenomenal.
I'm glad Nolan also checked that with me because I
Yeah.
Nelson's a tough guy to completely blitz out of there, but there's something about Garcia when he gets off the stool in the second round where this guy throws aggression to the wind and nobody can seem to trade with him. So I think it just got to keep riding the train, bro. As square as it might be,
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right, let's move on to the co-main.
Yeah, all right.
This is a
Co-main event.
very interesting fight, bro.
At the number, I think it is a very interesting fight. Not like a like not like a pick'em or whatever, but like Natalia Silva, Jessica Andrade, a little bit of a fraud check set up by UFC. They want to see if Natalia Silva really is one of these top 5 girls. After really, Maddie, in her last fight, you and I were both writing an inside the distance prop, is kind of underwhelming against Vivi Araujo. So now we're going to try to figure out against the theme of aggression. Jessica Andrade, she sat many of these up and coming prospects down. And all of a sudden, now Natalia Silva steamed up to minus 340. So it'll be interesting to look at the prop market here. We'll talk about the money line overall, but what is your general thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, I mean, so there's something to think about here in this fight. So Natalia Silva is not a fighter that like goes for finishes.
Right.
She's a fighter that if it happens, it happens, and she's only focused on winning. She's very technical. She's very skilled. I almost wonder if like even though Andrade is like a higher level fighter than Vivian, or at least that's pretty. I mean, obviously she's a higher level fighter than Vivian. I think she's more dangerous, but like you almost have to wonder with Silva, like, is it better to take her by knockout against fighters that are super aggressive, right? That are going to
Yeah.
come forward and maybe get caught.
Yep.
Versus if she's just in a stand-up fight where it's like a back and forth fight, she'll gladly just win by decision and not think twice about it and won't care. But in this scenario, it's almost like can Andrade? We've seen Andrade march forward with her chin in the air and get caught. So I almost wonder if Silva can do that if she has enough power. She definitely is very good striking. So I think it's it's tough. I think that Silva is obviously the better fighter here. I'm telling you right now, bro. Andrade by submission is plus 1,800. That's the craziest shit I've ever seen. Like that number is just unbelievable when
Yeah.
we saw her stand-in submission win against
Lemos.
against Amanda Lemos. Like, how do you ever make this girl an 18-1 submission when you've seen what she can do? I think on principle I have to at least put like a tenth of a unit on that. I mean that's absolutely crazy, but I think gun to my head, Natalia Silva probably wins a decision here.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
she's able to catch her coming in, but I think Silva probably wins a decision. But my God, 18-1 on that submission, bro? Are you kidding me?
yeah, I mean, so I have a tough time in this fight because some of you out there, you guys hate people that wrestle all the time. Like you hate the Marabs of the world that are just constantly spamming takedowns. I hate kickboxers like Natalia Silva that circle around the outside. They're totally willing to not do anything. To me, it's the least entertaining type of fight. Like the bull and the bull and the matador and the red flag is what she was doing to Vivi Araujo in her last fight. And you look at the box score; it just goes to show how underwhelming that performance was. She gave up over 6 minutes of control time, plus 12 striking difference. Like, yes, she won the fight, but like, where's the statement? Where is the pizzazz? Whereas you look at like the upside in this fight, Jessica Andrade has this division's record for significant strikes. She landed 213 on Lauren Murphy. She absolutely dominated her in that fight. When you look at how Andrade has lost, Tatiana Suarez, Erin Blanchfield, Valentina Shevchenko all finished her on the ground. We can rule that out with Silva right away. The question is how much you want to buy into the knockout loss against Yan Xiaonan on 2.5 months' notice, where Andrade admits herself she was in a bad period, whereas here's a 5-month full training camp. It's up at 125. I feel like Andrade is the more aggressive striker. I feel like I have more confidence in her data sample against her level of competition. I
Yeah.
feel like she's the more powerful striker. Now, 125 makes this a little interesting, but like you look at Natalia Silva's level of competition, she hasn't done anything yet. Like Andrea Lee was washed when they fought. Like
You know what? You know what it is about Silva is she just feels like a marketable like face and star for the UFC. Like, I'm
yeah,
not talking about her fight style, but just look at her, bro. Look at the picture.
I know.
I just feel
And
like
she talks about
she's
Jesus every post
attractive.
fight.
She's a good
Yeah,
striker. I just think she's very. I think she's long term going to be very marketable if she puts some good performances and wins together.
yeah,
I just think she has the kind of that it factor too. Like, but again, Andrade is a dog. She's gonna
she,
walk forward. She's
yeah.
gonna chase her down.
And I
How do
feel
you feel about Silver's? What are the stats say like on her power,
so,
her
so
knockdown
Silva
rate?
has a 0.74% knockdown rate. It's not bad for
Yeah,
women's flyweight, but in the whole of UFC, it's in the 40th percentile range. So
yeah,
it's not a very big power. And by the way, the two knockdowns, Victoria Leonardo, Teresa Bleda. So it's like
yeah,
if you feel like Andrade's chin is a little iffy, I get it. But to me, this number is crazy. I've got Andrade 48.2% likely to win. I've got this fight a little bit less than you'd think to go the distance, 59.8%. So I'm kind of leaning violence a little bit in this spot, which is a weird thing for me to think about with my brain because I don't even know who that would benefit. Maybe it is Andrade by submission. We just haven't seen a sub tendency from Andrade a lot or in a while, but we know those
yeah.
skills are there.
Dude,
I
I have kind of a sneaky play for you.
yeah,
Uh, but is it crazy to look at Natalia Silva by submission at 10-1?
I don't. I mean, we haven't seen her attempt one at
She
all.
has a bunch of them prior to the UFC.
Really,
And as good as Andrade is offensively with her grappling, she does
right?
get caught a lot too. She has been subbed 4 times. Natalia Silva has 7 wins by submission. That's more than her knockouts.
Yeah, and it's against hit and miss competition regionally,
For
but it is
sure.
something.
But the arm bars, bro.
Yeah, you see
She
it.
has
I see it.
1, 2, 3, 4. She has like 5 arm bars. That's fucking crazy.
That is really weird that she's 10-1 by submission when that's kind of how Andrade
Yeah.
has gone by the wayside. I don't have Silva sub very high. I have it like 5.2%, but like I think Andrade's money line, and then I think I want to play points here. Like gun your head, better kickboxer at distance. Natalia Silva, Marina Rodriguez. I feel like it's Marina Rodriguez, bro.
I think it's
And she
Natalia
just beat her.
Silva. I think we haven't seen enough yet, but my gut tells me it's Natalia Silva.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Maybe that's why we're a little split on this fight.
I don't know. I think the UFC is going to push her.
Yeah. I agree with that assessment. You know, she's a very nice, happy girl. She talks about Jesus in the post fight interviews. So
Yeah.
I see that. Points plus 110 here, by the way. So that's a little longer than I would have expected for a minus 340.
Andrade going the distance is just I don't know. I mean, the Marina Rodriguez fight, I don't know, bro. But I mean, all of her like Andrade is getting submitted by high level grapplers, Aaron Blanchfield, Tatiana Suarez, but she is getting subbed, bro.
I like Andrade's sub points at 5-1. That's a good number right there. I don't think.
1800.
Yeah, Silva has great striking defense, and she hasn't really shown any chin issues whatsoever. So like,
I'll tell you one thing: if Andrade, do you think Andrade is gonna just march forward and try to knock her out, or do you think she's gonna actually try to initiate the grappling?
I think she's going to take the center. I think she'll try to mix in her wrestling, but I don't think she's going to try to knock her out. I think she just takes the aggressive and she takes the center. She's aggressive, and then if it's like Mackenzie Dern where she's totally out to lunch, she will go for the kill. But I don't think Silva is someone that you can go for the kill like that against. I think it'll be a little more measured, in my opinion.
Yes, I'm struggling with it.
This line's freaking me out. The more we talk,
let's move on to the main event. But
yeah,
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna spend some serious time on that co-main because I think there's some good numbers there to look at, to take a serious look at.
Yeah, I gotta. Wow, I didn't know that. You guys got me and surprised me with that. Boy, I was like, what happened? What just happened? Did I play a YouTube video?
Anybody that is taking Sean Brady in the comments instantly banned off the. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but
But
I mean, hey, one of our guys, one of the Homa Fight guys, is fighting, so we don't hide the bias that we have a lot of affection
yeah,
for Gilbert Burns and Renato Moicano, but we are going to do our best to put that bias aside. Well, at least I am. I can't speak for Maddie in that regard, but. It is a decently tight co-main event line here. Gilbert Burns plus 150, Sean Brady minus 194. This is a big one for Gilbert, Maddie, coming off that Jack Della Maddalena fight where honestly, he had a lot of successful minutes in that fight. It just ended very, very poorly. Whereas Brady coming off a win, round three submission to Kelvin Gastelum. So this kind of a title of eliminator of sorts at welterweight. It is a big one for our boy. I will clear the floor for you since you work with Gilbert almost every week and what you're thinking.
yeah. I mean, look, I was at Gilbert's last fight. You know, I had him up 2 rounds to 0. I think most of the judges did. I think a lot of people thought it was 1-1 based off damage. I thought it was clear 2-0. I thought he had a perfect game plan for Jack Della Maddalena. I'll tell you one thing. If I could get Jack at a pick'em against Sean Brady, I would take Jack all day. So I don't hate that loss, and especially considering that Gilbert was winning that fight in my opinion. I think that carries a lot of weight with me. Obviously, anyone that's watching, I'm super biased, but taking my bias away, I think stylistically this is a perfect matchup for Gilbert. Like I think that Sean Brady can make look really good against guys like Kelvin Gastelum or guys that, that can get subbed on the ground. Gilbert's never been subbed in his entire life. Okay, that's in grappling matches. That's in MMA fights. The dude's never been subbed. The only way you're ever even gonna have a chance at subbing him is if you really hurt him first. And Sean Brady has some power in his hands, but I just don't see that happening unless he really catches him with something. This is also a 5 round fight. I think Gilbert has obviously the experience factor. He's been in 5 rounders. You got to ask yourself if either of these guys go through adversity, who's the dog that's going to battle through adversity? That's Gilbert Burns all day in this spot. And one thing, I think the reason I like him the most in this fight is because we saw when Sean Brady fights off his back foot, he doesn't really know what to do. And
Yep.
obviously Bilal's an extreme example with that pressure and pace. But I think if Gilbert says, fuck it, I'm going forward, and he does it early, and it's an Apex card, but it's the main event, and there's some pressure on Sean Brady coming off a loss, and there's equal pressure on both sides for sure. But I think Gilbert can march forward, and he's got to put big combinations together, right? Not just ones and twos and hooks, but like he's got to put punches and bunches together, come forward, and just outdog Sean Brady. I think he's live for a TKO. I also think he's live on the scorecard based off of damage. But I think that, I think my prediction is Gilbert Burns round 2 TKO.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing about this fight is we have never had anybody that they
Thanks for
thought
the
it was.
correction, by the way. Sean Brady's not coming off a loss, but
No,
Sean
the
Brady,
Muhammad fight. Yeah.
Sean Brady
Bilal
lost to
Muhammad.
Bilal Muhammad, but
Yeah.
he looked very good in his last performance, so I agree.
Yeah, like I don't know how much it matters when I'm so done with Kelvin Gastelum at this point. Like I don't see Kelvin Gastelum as like this marquee, notable win when he's barely squeaking out like a wrestling based win over Daniel Rodriguez, and like that's when you look at Brady's resume, it's kind of underwhelming. Like Michael Chiesa in his mid to late 30s, Jake Matthews. It's like we're here, and I don't know if Brady has particularly earned this number, especially when we saw Bilal Muhammad stuff. I'm sorry, Bilal Muhammad. I do that all the time with my Denver accent. Stuff the takedowns, and what happened? Sean got tired. He got put on his back foot, and Bilal, notorious for not having any power, ends up TKOing this guy in the second round. And
Yeah.
what it didn't take that long. It was sub 10 minutes, right? And this is a 25-minute fight. There's no doubt that as this extends, it's harder to have Brady's style in a 25-minute fight than it is Gilbert, who can win minutes on the feet here. I think Gilbert's a much better striker. And, like, we haven't really had anyone try to put Gilbert on his back and think that's a good idea because Gilbert can reach up with arm bars, triangles. Like, you don't want to play on the ground with Gilbert is typically
Yeah.
what goes on. So does Brady end up getting himself trapped there? I went ahead and I bet Duran at plus 160 earlier this week because I started asking all these questions. I'm like, where does Brady win convincingly here? It's going to be hairy on the mat. It's going to be hairy at distance. Like if Gilbert, I would hate this for him, of course, because we know him well. But if he's just washed at 38, maybe he's lost a step here and there. But like that Jack Della fight against one of the best prospects in the division, it was close. It was competitive. Those guys were trading, and Jack is one of the best strikers.
Jack is very good, man. Very good.
Is insane, and his defensive jujitsu in that fight was outstanding. Jack's was.
Very good, yeah.
We don't know that about Sean because Sean's no really surrendered any control time to anybody. So like, what if Gilbert's on top? What if Gilbert sweeps his way on top? Like, we don't know what that looks like. We assume Brady is good there, and he didn't. Sean Brady beat like Craig Jones in a grappling match, so like that there's all this
I don't
evidence.
think he beat him. I think he didn't get subbed, right?
Oh, I don't watch a lot of grappling, but like
Yeah. I know
I
you're right. He did win. He did win.
yeah, and it's like I mean that is a solid win in grappling, but this is MMA grappling, and Gilbert has great hands.
Yeah.
We saw him, by the way, use this sort of formula against a guy in Hamzat we knew was going to come forward, shoot takedowns. What happened? Hamzat kind of ended up having to stay on his feet in that fight. He didn't like what he felt with Gilbert on
Yeah.
the ground. So, like, if this goes later, I really do like Gilbert here. The more ways I think about it, if he wasn't 38, I would hammer him in this spot because I just feel like there aren't a lot of ways where Brady can cover this number and
Yeah.
win convincingly. Now, my model's not as set on TKO. It kind of likes more of a longer fight. Just because we haven't seen like a Gilbert one punch and go knockout for a bit, but
Yeah.
really he hasn't had a matchup this good for one in a bit.
So Gilbert's the only guy to knock down Kamaru Usman
right,
and Hamzat, right?
yep,
You know, he's knockdowns against those two, high level guys. And I just look at the end of the day, bro, he's a dog.
yep,
He hasn't been on my podcast in weeks because he's fucking focused, bro. He's training, he's in the gym, his work ethic's unmatched. I think stylistically it's a great fight for him.
agreed.
I think when guys get up there in age, you worry about when they're fighting these great strikers that are going to put your lights out or test your chin. Is Sean Brady going to do that? It's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Gilbert as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The cardio thing could get a little dicey just because of his age, but like how much do I want to factor in age when the sample I have is that it's good? And by the way, Gilbert, in some of these 5-round fights, remember he went 5 hard with Tyron Woodley. This was way back in the day. I think this was right after COVID where he had that Woodley fight. But like, you're right. He's the one with the deep water experience of these two. So like, objectively, Maddie, it sounds like you and I are on the same page. Where does Sean Brady cover this number? My model
Yeah.
doesn't think he does.
How do you like him to get it done, though? I got to hear your unbiased approach because also another thing that would be crazy is the sub. Like, and I think he would have to get Brady very tired or
Yeah.
because I think both guys are obviously super good defensively. As far as defending those submissions, but I just think at the end of the day, if he can bring Brady in the deep waters, I think anything's live. Decision, KO, sub.
I honestly, to be honest with you, don't feel very good about it. I've got decision for Gilbert 30% of the time, 6.8% sub, 5.2% knockout. So about 30% decision, 11% inside the distance. I honestly think that Gilbert is probably going to get it done inside the distance if he does, just because Brady's a tough guy to win minutes against, except when we saw him losing minutes, it was against Bilal Muhammad and he looked completely lost. So I lean inside the distance. I probably do lean knockout, but like, do I want to leave behind a guy like Burns' submission upside? Probably not. So what is inside the distance in this fight for Gilbert?
So
Because
Gilbert by knockouts plus 450.
Okay.
Sean Brady by knockouts plus 320. Gilbert
ridiculous.
by sub, and then
That's
both guys
nonsense.
by both. Well, I think that's more about the fact that Gilbert has been knocked out in his last like 2 out of however many fights. So I think that's the reason the Brady KO prop shorter. But at the end of the day, both guys by sub are 10-1 each, which honestly is not crazy to just sprinkle on both of those sides at 10-1. It's not the craziest thing in the world. And then inside the distance for Gilbert is 3-1. I mean, you're getting basically 2x's money line to take it inside the distance, and it's a 5-rounder.
Bingo. That's my angle. And then that way I don't have to worry if it's a club and sub, a knockout, if he gets top time. Like I just don't know if he wins a ton of. Now I'm not going to kick myself because I have a money line bet, but like as far as an addition to it, I am going to go inside the distance.
Yeah,
What would you think about Gilbert's money line in our show parlay this week?
I'm in.
Okay. It seems like a good transition for us to build one, and
Yeah.
we're coming off we are coming off a card where let's see what our parlay was last time. I'm going to pull it up on my odds tracker, and it was heartbreaking. I remember that much.
It
Let's see
always
here.
is.
Oh, Zachary Sub was the leg that blew it for us,
Oh
dude. In
wow,
round
yeah.
one when he
He
came out
showed
of
how
that.
amateur he was with his jiu-jitsu. We learned a lot about him in that fight, but I mean,
Yeah.
the opportunities were there the whole fight.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. So
I
let's
already
try.
know what our safe. I already know what our quote unquote safe parlay is gonna be, bro.
Okay. So
I'm
just to
gonna
remind
tell
the
you what I
folks,
think. What I think it
safe
should be.
safe
Yeah. So
parlay.
this
We
is our
usually do it
safe
about
parlay.
5 to 1.
So
It's
anyone that's new to
important.
the show, we try to target a 2 or 3 leg parlay that is going to pay anywhere from 4 to 1 to 6 to 1, most likely. I think we're going to go. We don't always have a small dog in there, but for the sake of this week, we'll throw Gilbert in there.
Okay.
And then I think I already know Austin's going to agree with. Which one is it? Was it a prelim? No. Gabriel Santos minus 265.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take the money line there.
And that has us right now at a plus 244. So we need one more leg that's like semi-conservative.
What about? Let's see if I can do alternate round betting here. So
I know you
244.
don't. We're on some opposites early on.
So what do you think about Dulgarian 1 or 2? It's minus 550. And then I'm gonna workshop something. I know you like Santos money line minus 265, but what about instead of Santos money line, we went plus
Oh my
1?
God, bro! I just realized that
Yeah.
I've never seen a half round over under. Have you seen that?
No, I don't think I have.
Isaac
Is this-
Dulgarian, the over under is half a round, bro.
It is over half a round minus 270.
Under half a round is plus 200.
Honestly, dude, hammer the under. I mean, like first 2 minutes, he just rolls through. That's
That's crazy, bro.
That is crazy.
What if we do time props on the Dulgarian fight?
Okay.
No. I was gonna say fight does not start round 3 is minus 700.
What do you think about Budka Petroski doesn't go the distance plus 120?
Petroski, what?
Budka does not go the distance at plus 120.
It's just what's the number?
It's plus 120.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like Petroski to sub him, but
Okay, yeah, let's not go there. We'll use Petroski in another one then.
yeah.
Let's see if I can
Why
get
don't-
more specific with Santos. Than
Oh,
we-
dude, I know what we need to do.
What?
Fight ends by knockout. Steve Garcia, Kyle Nelson, minus
Sure.
310.
Yeah, let's see. It's minus 310. Let's see if that
It's a
gets
little
us.
pricey though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance Nelson could win by decision or sub. He does have some subs, but I don't know if I like that number though.
Yeah, it seems a little steep.
Yeah. I mean, we could just put our boy Steve by KO in it and call it a day. You want to do it?
Wow. Yeah, are you willing to do that? Because I know you've been going back and forth. On
I mean,
this
it's
fight.
kind
I
of
want
like
you to-
we're always hitting that play on the show. So
Oh, okay. This is a good one. Gilbert Burns money line, Dulgarian 1 or 2, and Garcia by KO. Or do you want to
Okay.
do Santos instead of Dulgarian?
no, not Sant. Yeah, Gabriel Santos money line is. In
Oh,
there.
okay. I
But
was
then
already,
Isaac Dulgarian.
It's minus
Isaac
5.
Dulgarian inside the distance is minus 950.
Yeah, forget it. I mean, he's minus 550 to win in round 1 or 2. It's a waste of money. Like, why would we do it? So I like this better. Gilbert Burns, Gabriel Santos money line, Garcia KO plus 543. I think
What's the
that's
third leg on the Dulgarian fight?
Oh, so I was thinking about including either round 1 or 2 for him minus 550.
Why don't we throw in Dulgarian round 1 minus 210? You're the biggest favorite in the UFC. Do your fucking job in the first round. You in?
Instead of Santos?
No. So Dulgarian round 1 is minus 210.
Yep.
Santos minus 265 and Gilbert Burns, and that's
Okay.
plus 408.
And we'll leave Steve out. I'm totally good with that. So
Leave
let's do
Steve
it.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
That- that's a bet.
Yeah, let me type this
All
up
right,
in
I
chat.
put that in I put that in Telegram for Mike. If we can
Okay.
put that on the screen, Mike.
Yep.
And then let's do our long shot parlay next. What are you liking, bro?
Petroski sub was up there for me, the plus 360 number. I like Amarim sub plus 320.
Which one is it?
Either one. So Petroski submission plus 360 or Emerim sub plus 320. Those are ones I liked.
I'm down my leg. I want to go Petroski sub as my leg.
Okay.
Plus
I want you to
360.
also be on board with my leg though, so it's
On
like
who? On which one?
I said I want you to be on board. So what do you think of Garcia?
Mike, if we
round
can, Mike,
2
can you
KO?
type the parlay in the chat and
I
then
got
we'll
I got
display
it.
it.
I got
All right,
it.
Austin got it. Which one did you say you like?
I like what about Garcia round 2 KO plus 550 or Emerim sub plus 320? You like either of those?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm scared on the Amarim one after
Yeah.
what we've seen. I want to
It
go
makes
back
sense.
and watch. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm a little scared.
What about
Petroski by sub is plus 360, so we
What
just
a-
need another good leg. All right, so
so
let's click on that.
what about
Let's
Padilla
click on that, Mike,
ITD?
and display that
Padilla
parlay on the screen.
ITD is plus 360. Padilla knockout is Chris Padilla. Padilla KO is 10-1, and it's calling by name. But I know you like the sub, so I was kind of thinking maybe we do inside the distance plus 360 there instead.
I mean, it's 2 plus 360 legs. That's not bad. That's 20-1.
What do you think?
Let me take one final glance here.
Yeah.
I'm in on that.
Okay, let's do it. So what's the official plus money there so I can put it in
So
chat?
Andre Petroski by sub plus 360.
I like that.
Chris Padilla by KO or sub plus 360. $100 pays $2,016. Plus 2016 is the odds.
Party like it's 2016 up in here, and I've got that long shot parlay in the chat if we want to throw it up there, or however we want to do it. So we got a 20-1. I like the 4-1 a lot, Maddie. I think we made the right decision there. Garcia is a little riskier than we want for our quote unquote safe parlay.
Yeah.
So I like it though, Maddie. I still have Garcia on my card. I appreciate you stopping by, but we are out of time for you guys. Next week should be a good one. We got the UFC. What are they calling it now? The Riyadh season Noche UFC. It's going to be the big card at the Spheres. So that's all we really have to remember. And no Sean O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili headlining. That guy should be a good one with a lot of Mexican flavor. Maddie, anything else you want to tell the folks about when your card's going to drop or anything?
Gilbert Burns, baby. That's all I got to say. Lock him in. I don't want to hear it's a biased pick. I know it's a biased pick, but it doesn't mean it ain't smacking.
Yep. So your card and long shots are coming Saturday. Thank you very much for putting some of that stuff up there.
There we go, baby.
Did you put that on?
Come take my money.
Okay, if you like Sean,
money if you guys want it.
We had a ton of Brady chirpers in the chat. If you want Maddie's money, you can come get it right over there on Bet Openly with Gino.
Go to my Twitter at Mattybetts. Go click the link.
Yeah.
Take my money head to head. I don't care.
I love it.
Losing. And no one, what's crazy is that bet ain't fulfilling either. Like $80 fulfilled out of 5,000 so far.
Oh yeah. So where's all these people? But you got to put your money.
Where are these people at, bro?
Yeah. But Maddie's card and long shots will come out on Saturday. I have my betting guide coming out on FanDuel Research, FanDuel.com/research/UFC tomorrow, as well as my full card will release in the same place as Maddie's, which is the Home of Fight Discord. We always have a link to the Home of Fight Discord. You can get my picks, Maddie's picks, Clint McLean's picks for free. You can even pay for really good picks like Nolan the parlay. He swept Dana White's Contender Series on Tuesday.
Yeah, he had a crazy card, bro.
And Hey Jive also had a great day as with the Contender Series. Those guys are premium in there. If you want A+ film rock stars, you can get those there. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next week for next week's big card. But until then, we hope all your bets cash. Good luck with the first week of NFL, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Because I hit the parlay, bro. What you mean? Why? This is the life. This is the life I live, bro.
He won the gambling. Oh, that was an amazing weekend. He's all about the results.